Welcome back to Rainbow History class. We are on Know Your Icons, Rumi, and we're just gonna jump right into it. Before I start this video, please excuse my pronunciation. I do actually Google pronunciation before I start reading with you guys, um, but I have anxiety and I forget. I forget because I'm too anxious. That's not an excuse. It is, in fact, inexcusable. It's just a reason. So please bear with me. All right. I'm trying my best, like y'all are trying your best. Okay. And so let's get back into it. Jala-di-Rumi was born in Persia in 1207 and was raised according to Sufism, a brand of Islamic mysticism concerned with awakening a Muslim's spirituality through direct experiences with a god. Rumi found this direct connection through poetry, which he believed to recite while whirling around and around in a state of religious rhapsody. The practice gave rise to a group of followers known as the whirling dervishes, who continued the style of moving meditation in Rumi's name after his death. Rumi never wrote a word down. However, he had a circle of dedicated scribes who compiled his collection of work. Rumi's poetry burns with divine love and has captivated much of the world's imagination for centuries. A major revival in the mid 2000s led to Rumi being crowned the highest selling poet in the United States. See, that's why I be quoting him a lot, because in the 2000s, he was the highest selling poet in the United States. Rumi's wisdom on love famously helped Coldplay Chris Martin navigate his divorce from Gwyneth Paltrow. His phrasings have been stylized on JPEGs of long exposure night skies and shared all over the internet, tagged inspo and food for thought. You'll find Brumney's work on Ivanka Trump's Twitter and even tattooed just near Brad Pitt's armpit. Sadly, Rumi's most well-known words have been lost in translation. We recommend doing your due diligence before immortalizing them on your skin or wedding invitations. That feels like a red flag. Let's see what's going to happen. Another thing that has been lost in the mythologization of Rumi is the fact that he was first and foremost a Muslim. And if you live in the United States like me, at least since 2011, it's not been a safe place or time to be a Muslim. Rumi, like his father, was a Sufi scholar. He rose to become an eminent leader in Islamic law and curated among the highest of Islamic society. Alongside his mysticism and poetry, he practiced Islam throughout his life, praying and fasting and offering his interpretations of Islamic law. But when Rumi met Shams Tabrizi in 1244 CE, everything changed. Shams became Rumi's beloved teacher, soulmate, and new subject of poetry. The two were inseparable. Rumi wrote of Shams like one might write of a god. In fact, this distinction between the two isn't exactly clear. His writing became increasingly homoerotic, including phrases like, "I am your harp. You strike me like a peculum on every part of my body. How can I cry?" Rumi and Shams locked themselves away for 40 nights to speak and exchange ideas about divine love, and it has been suggested that here their love took on a physical element. Rumi and Shams were together for a short time, only 2 years before Shams mysteriously disappeared. He may have been killed out of jealousy by someone close to Rumi, or he may have simply left. All we know is that Rumi was left consumed by grief. Whether their relationship was physical or platonic, its clearness is in the pain of separation. In finding love and losing it, countless queer people have felt that white hot pain. I mean, same. Not same sex, but same. That's something that we all can really do. Yeah. So, and the fact that that's something that we all can relate to, that doesn't make our queer and trans siblings all that much different, right? Because guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? They're not that different from us. Humans are humans. Humans experience human things. All of us together, including our queer and trans siblings. Okay. By the Asabads, Celibate fell into the Mongol Empire in the mid 13th century. The instability and destruction brought the golden age of Islam to an end. But further west in Italy, a new golden age was just getting started. An influx of Jewish and Muslim scholars from across the East brought with them the same ancient Greek texts that had been studied in the Abbasid Caliphate, which were then translated into Latin and rediscovered by the West. This was the dawn of the Renaissance, a highly romanticized period of history that closed the book on the Middle Ages. The word Renaissance means rebirth and refers to the renewed interest in classical art, philosophy, and culture. And that occurred throughout Europe from the mid 13th century right up until the 17th century. Renaissance historians often talk about this period as a return to the sophistication of Greek and Latin culture from the uncivilized Middle Ages, when society mindlessly followed the Catholic Church without reason or critical thoughts. So many of these historians were from the Renaissance period, so there was definitely some bias in play here. There were many innovations birthed from the Renaissance, such as the Gutenberg printing press and single point perspective artwork. But it wasn't all golden hued paintings and mathematical instruments. There was also a lot of people dying for their religious beliefs in violent wars across Europe. Today, we live in a constant cycle of throwbacks where what's old is considered new again, so often that we barely notice. But the phenomenon of the Renaissance is not so different from our recurrent obsession with the 90s. The 90s was the best. Just one old lady's opinion here. The classical period felt much more romantic and ethereal to the 13th century artists and philosophers, so they decided to bring it back. That's why the Renaissance, particularly in Italy, was so undeniably queer. Men who slept with men were given the teachings of Plato as a way to justify the virtue of their desire. Renaissance thinkers built on their ideas presented in the symposium, believing that intellectual love between men, that is, women weren't thought to possess much of an intellect back then, brought one closer to God. Sodomy was so prevalent in the Renaissance Florence that the city had to do something, or at least appeared to do something to stop it. since technically it was still forbidden according to the church. The administration, called the Office of Knight, was set up to tackle the issue. Many of those investigated for sodomy were fined and sent on their way, suggesting that the relationship between the Office of Knight and the city's sodomite was to some extent mutually beneficial. The fines were relatively minor, acted like more of a tax, allowing the city to make considerable money off of its citizens. And remember Antonius, the angelic young lover from the Roman Emperor Hadrian, who lived over 1,000 years ago? Like a 15th century Timothy Chalamet, Antonius became the it boy of the Renaissance. Artists of the era painted and sculptured the young Antonius until he became the epitome of male beauty, an irregular face around the scene. Speaking of which, the scene was littered with writhing, naked, muscular men who we can thank the Renaissance for. It's difficult to escape the homoerotic gaze of artists like Michelangelo and Da Vinci, whose work was a window into the queer sensibilities of the time. So we will leave it at there today. We are just over 11 minutes. Good reading. Good reading with me. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Next time, we will learn a little bit more about Leonardo da Vinci and his homoerotic sensibilities. Uh, I'll see you next time. Okay? Drink some water. Take care of yourself. Punch some Nazis. Stand up for your trans and queer brothers and sisters. And remember, we keep each other safe, okay? And I'll see you next time. Bye.